Today on NerdOut, FluidTokens. Welcome back to NerdOut, the show where we take a look at Cardano, we break it down, but we don't dumb it down. Today, I'm talking to a very fun person on Twitter. He's known as El Raulito, and here in real life, he is known as Raul from FluidTokens. So let me add him up to the stage. And today we're going to be talking all about the FluidTokens platform. So Raul, tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about FluidTokens. How did you guys get started?
Sure. Hi, Andrew. So my name is Raul, and funny enough, I was born in El Salvador. So when I was a kid, and I said that came from El Salvador, nobody knew my country, but now apparently everyone knows where El Salvador is and the Bitcoin country. And I started as an electronic engineer. That's my background, so
Mm-hmm.
hardware stuff, and I was not really a software developer. However, I always loved to code. And in a startup event in Milan, in Italy, I met Matteo, and he
Mm-hmm.
was doing his master thesis in the current version of Bluetooth, like the
Mm-hmm.
very, very begin one. So he was very into Cardano, and he said, "You know what? We should do something. Why don't you try to test out how Cardano node works and so on?" And step by step, that's how he got me into it because I
Mm-hmm.
was an hardware engineer. So he said you should be able to maintain a node pretty easily. And actually it was not just maintaining a node, it was interacting with the Cardano node to create transaction and so on. And yeah, when we launched FluidTokens, it was in the NFT bull market,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why when the platform arrived, it was mainly used for peer-to-peer loans with NFTs as collateral.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, the space has evolved a lot, and currently, what is currently in testnet and should be live in the next month is a new lending platform that is capable of doing loans that are not just time-based, but also
Mm-hmm.
allows to use not only NFTs but tokens and yeah, supply tokens, borrow ADA, or the opposite, supply ADA and borrow tokens.
Mm-hmm.
And
So those won't be time based. Those will just be like based on loan health, I guess, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. Basically, what happens is that your debt is growing. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
linear growth, it's more like a quadratic growth. And
Okay.
in this way, you, at the end of the day, as borrower, at some point, you need to pay back.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there is liquidation involved.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. So you guys are also one of the few teams that are building on both Cardano and Bitcoin. Tell me a little bit about how you guys got into the Bitcoin side of things.
That's actually very interesting because 1 year ago, we launched on Bitcoin. It was not easy at the very beginning because, as you know, Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the major limitation. So, however, it currently has some cool features. One that is actually already on Cardano and is the determinism. So
Mm-hmm.
I could actually sign a transaction without propagate it and broadcast it. And with the hash of it, I can already build a new transaction, so transaction chaining of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I can build a chain of them and only at the end of it propagate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, Bitcoin has this feature that actually is very similar to what nested transactions are, and there is a CIP on Cardano and in discussion, and it allows you to sign a transaction partially. So
Mm-hmm.
I can define my inputs or some outputs and sign, and then whoever wants and whoever is willing to complete the missing parts can do it and then propagate. And with these two primitives, you can kind of build a sort of DeFi mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because we launched the community on the Bitcoin side was quite surprised because they say, hey, how comes that you are able to build so fast on UTXO? We didn't know you before. Where did you learn all this? And the answer was Cardano.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how many similarities there are between the two chains at the end of the day. When I was looking at Bitcoin a little bit, I was noticing that it's like, oh yeah, I noticed that transaction chaining was there, and then also that the you know the partial transaction stuff is like what we've been talking about for a while. Um, but yeah, there's still some pushback to that on Cardano. We'll see what happens with it. It's going through the SIP process, and we'll see if it gets funded or not. Um, so you guys have also been busy. Like I first met you in person in Da Nang, Vietnam, when we were both over there, and when we were over there, you guys at Fluid were talking about a new platform that was coming soon and is now out. Tell us a little bit about Aquarium and what that does and how it solves the Babel fees problem on Cardano.
Yeah, absolutely. So uh, the interesting thing that I discovered this week is where does the bubble fee come from, the name, like, and the thing is that if you remember in the bubble tower
Mm-hmm.
story, everyone at some point started to speak at different language, so it
Yes.
was hard to communicate. And in the very same way with the bubble fee, everyone has different tokens in their chain, so
Mm-hmm.
you would like to, or even in the same chain, and you would like to be able to make transactions with your own token. So this
Mm-hmm.
is the very basic concept, and it's not something new in general in the Web3 space because even EVM chains have been pushing through sponsored transaction, and there are protocols out there that would be like Aquarium. For instance, on Ethereum is called Gelato. Gelato
Mm-hmm.
is the provider, and the issue that they are trying to fix, and we are also trying to fix, is this: there are some dApps where you can actually use stable coins on the dApp,
Mm-hmm.
and for some users, what they do is they get from the stables from the exchange, they send them to their wallet, they try to sign to use the dApp,
Mm-hmm.
and then they find out that that's not enough. They
Right.
need the Matic token, Ethereum token, or on Cardano, they need ADA.
Mm-hmm.
And however, maybe they have a lot of stable coin, and that's what they don't understand. Why, even if I have $1,000 in stables, I cannot perform this transaction? What's
Mm-hmm.
blocking me? And the bubble fees allow users, therefore, to pay with stable coins. And Aquarium is already live in mainnet
Mm-hmm.
and use a smart contract solution. Therefore, there is no uh, ledger change needed. However, of course, there are some trade-off between smart contract solution and a ledger one. Smart contracts are more expensive in terms of processing and CPU compared to
Mm-hmm.
something directly in the ledger. However, it's easy to integrate without a soft or an hard fork.
Mm-hmm. So when I looked at FluidTokens, I noticed that when I create my own, you call them tanks, aquarium
Mhm.
tanks, I guess, and it will take, for example, like if I put 100 ADA in to create tanks, it'll break it up into 425 ADA UTXOs that can then be used. So I could have, in theory, 4 users using my dApp at the same time. How do you like what is a good way to manage adapt, making sure that 2 users don't try to use the same tank, or how does that really work, or how would a user
So,
integrate that?
no, absolutely. When it comes to Aquarium, as you said, we try to split the ADA in different UTXOs to
Mm-hmm.
avoid contention issues. Otherwise, if it was just one tank, the issue would be bigger. And we are currently working with projects to help them, providing some APIs to manage the eventual queue of users. So
Mm-hmm.
we provide different UTXO every time it's there is a query of it. However, in general, what we recommend to the projects that want to do it without us, and that's actually a cool thing about DeFi, you don't really have to interact with the FluidTokens team if you want to interact directly with the smart contract, right?
Hmm.
And the best practice in this case is to always have ideally as many UTXOs as how many users you
Right.
expect. Of course, if you expect 1,000 users, that means a lot of UTXOs. And then try to manage the UTXOs and have an off-chain database, or at least
Hmm.
some memory of what is the last tank that you used. And you could eventually give another tank to the new users, or chaining, so
Hmm.
providing the new transaction hash of the last tank used, and keep going from there.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that, but that's true. You could use chaining with the tanks all in memory, and so then as things go on, yeah, so you could get away with fewer tanks that way, I guess.
Exactly.
Um, cool. So tell me a little bit more about FT Labs. Like, how many people do you have working there? You know, you're the CTO there. What are some of the other team members and their roles?
So we were born as company in Switzerland, and as team we met in Italy, and most of us are from Italy, indeed.
Hmm.
And however, Italy is not that Web3 friendly yet. Like still there are some aspects of crypto space that are not well defined. While Switzerland instead was more open, and as you know, for instance, there are many foundations that were born in at Zug. Even Cardano Foundation is
Yes.
based there. And the idea is this. So we are, I would say that around 10 team members, and some are full time, me, Matteo, Ullas, and then we have some part time developers, both on
Hmm.
the back end and front end side. Some contractors that help us for small tasks sometimes, and even developing some update or upgrade to our new smart contracts or things like this. And something that not every, so we are mostly technical team, therefore we are not so good at marketing, and that's why
Hmm.
we have someone else that is managing our marketing side, is Lorenzo. He's always also Italian. And yeah, it's nice to the team is keeps growing, and it's nice to see that from a dream and an idea that just me and Matteo had at the very beginning, now it keeps growing.
No, that's very cool. So let's talk a little bit about the future and where you guys are going to go. The other place I believe I saw, I don't know if you were there or not, but I know Matteo was there, was at Bitcoin 2025. And we had a big conversation with all the Cardano people at Bitcoin 2025. And we were talking about Bitcoin DeFi and a lot of the stuff they're building into Lace Wallet for Bitcoin DeFi. And the FluidTokens team was in the room for that. Tell me some of the stuff you guys are thinking about building for supporting Bitcoin DeFi.
No, absolutely. I think that when it comes to Bitcoin DeFi, the things that needs to be adopted are three. So one is of course the bubble fees that helps a lot the users,
Hmm.
because they would like to pay transaction with Bitcoin. Another one is the Bitcoin bridge, and as you know, there are so many teams building through towards this, and even us, we are cooking something with the team of ZK Fold, and
Hmm.
together we are also having some calls with IOG team, because there is some work that we can actually collaborate with, instead of
Hmm.
doing some parallel work and that is not beneficial for each other. But also the other thing is the capability of using even your own Bitcoin wallet. So you don't
Hmm.
want to download a new wallet. Maybe you can sign something with your Bitcoin wallet and do stuff on Cardano. So you
Right.
don't even realize what's. that you are actually using another chain and have moved your Bitcoin to that chain to do some DeFi, but everything is happening from your Bitcoin native wallet.
Right.
And
No, that's
yeah,
interesting because Cardano does support the Bitcoin primitives now, so we can verify in a Plutus smart contract, we can verify a signature from a Bitcoin wallet or an Ethereum wallet, I believe, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, you can't spend out of a Cardano wallet, but you could spend out of a smart contract that's expecting a Bitcoin signature.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and fully not custodial, meaning that
Right.
Bitcoin or ADA there cannot be unlocked unless there is the signature of the owner of the
Hmm.
Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah. I remember when they were first demoing that capability, they showed us like moving ADA around with an Ethereum MetaMask wallet, and it was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit more about the bridge you're building to Bitcoin. How is it different from what's already out there, or how is it going to be different, better, faster, more, whatever?
Yeah. So the thing is this: when it comes to bridges, I think that even the Bitcoin, the war bridge is a bit scary sometimes because
Hmm.
what most of our users have been used to have is multi-signature bridges,
Hmm.
and ideally, in a very good scenario, they are not that bad. However, what we have seen in experience is that you are trusting this how these keys are managed, and it's not always uh, they are not always managed in a good way, or even when they are managed in a good way. Let's remember what happened to Bybit. Like they were able to hack the Docker, so they thought that they were signing some cool good thing.
Hmm.
However, they were signing with the real multi-signature some bad bad thing, and
Right.
therefore the question is how to do something better. And the idea is that what you want to do is you want to be able to lock Bitcoin on the Bitcoin side and be
Hmm.
able to mint on the Cardano side without having to trust or require another party involved in this process, right?
Hmm.
And that's essentially what we are working on. How can I prove that I did and performed a Bitcoin transaction on Cardano and without asking any permission to anyone, be able to mint using this proof that I did this
Hmm.
transaction on Bitcoin and get my Bitcoin on Cardano? So this is actually what we are working with ZK Fold, and
Hmm.
the idea is that even if there is nobody, let's say, that is able to create this Bitcoin snapshot, you can be your own snapshot verifier, let's say. And
Hmm.
how does that work? Because you could even say, okay, this is the actual Bitcoin snapshot right now. Well, currently what happens is that you need to provide the block, but the block to be valid needs at least 8 blocks after it.
Hmm.
So you cannot really cheat in this sense because you would need to have a lot of proof of work power hash rate
Right.
in order to break something like this.
Right. So basically, you lock it on Bitcoin, you wait for 8 blocks, and then you do the proof after that, showing all the 8 blocks and your transaction. And that would be, you would have to have billions of dollars of value to be able to pull that off. Well, or
Exactly.
hash power. Okay, very cool. And have you guys thought about the bridge going the other way yet, from
Yes,
Cardano to Bitcoin?
exactly. So on the other way around, there are currently two approaches. One is using BitVM, and
Hmm.
using BitVM requires some computational that you can not really do on the Bitcoin side, but verify on that. And the other thing that is actually more Cardano oriented, and it's kind of cool in my opinion because not everyone has uh, leveraged so much Mithril until now, is the
Hmm.
fact that with the Mithril you could actually have some stake pool operators be actually the governance control using Schnorr signature for the
Hmm.
Bitcoin that is actually locked on the other side.
Okay.
Therefore, similar to what we said before, like in order to attack, you would need a lot of hash power. In this case, in order to attack on the other side, you would need to be in control of the biggest stake pools available on Cardano. And at some
Right.
point, it means that you would probably need to be in control of all the staking power on Cardano. And that's a lot.
Hmm. Very cool. Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you want to make sure we get into the show?
Yeah, maybe just say that, as I said before at the very beginning, the new lending platform is coming. And
Hmm.
one of the particular cool features that I am really proud of is the fact that right now we've been used to have only hot wallets interact with protocols, right? So I
Hmm.
am a user, I want to provide liquidity or to borrow, and that's it. However, with the new lending protocol, even multi-signatures will be able to interact. So
Okay.
imagine some projects that maybe have some treasury or some DAOs, and
Hmm.
they've never been able to do this because usually what you do is you delegate someone, you trust that someone, and
Right.
that's providing liquidity. But in this sense, instead, everyone part of the multi-signature can verify, sign the transaction, interact with the protocol, borrow, provide liquidity, and there is no trust involved anymore.
That's amazing. Very cool. Well, Raul, I want to thank you for joining us today. And I hope everybody got to know a little bit more about FluidTokens, all the cool stuff you're building on Cardano. And we hope to hear a lot from you and your projects in the future. So, with that, nerd out.